It's my favorite segment of the week is the Pittsburgh Steelers Talk mailbag, where I answer your questions on the black and gold. We're going to be putting this out on Sunday, guys. So if there's anything coaching related that gets asked and it's outdated, just keep that in mind. But I really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to join the most interactive fan community for Steelers fans anywhere here on YouTube. We have just about 115,000 subscribers on this channel for a reason. We're the only individually run Steelers news program with over 100,000 subscribers. And I think the reason why that is because we've really done our best to build a community of Yinzers that bleed black and gold here on the channel. We go live twice a week to talk about the latest surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we give you guys a chance to get on the show every single week with our mailbags that we film live every single week on the final live show of that particular week. So we greatly appreciate your guys' support, and if you want to get a question on a future edition of the Steelers Talk mailbag, make sure you join us on Thursdays for our live shows. Then we get to $2 here from Mexamander, who says, who would be a great OC hire for OC coach to hire? I would say Scott Tolzien, and maybe by the time that this comes out, Tolzien is already the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm filming this on Friday, by the way, so just keep that in mind. But, I think Tolzien being a former quarterback, being somebody that has a history with Aaron Rodgers, has a history with Mike McCarthy. He's 38 years old. He's seen as an up-and-coming offensive mind. Played under McCarthy at Green Bay. All those things, I think are positives given the fact that Rodgers is likely coming back next year, and McCarthy's going to be entrusting the OC and the quarterback's coach, Tom Arth, with developing the quarterback and, the quarterback of the future, whether that's Will Howard, whether that's somebody that they draft this year, whether it's someone that they draft in 2027. Whoever that future is at the quarterback position, that OC and that quarterback coach is going to be tasked with developing those fundamentals and their mental processing and getting those guys to, reach their potential as starting quarterbacks in the National Football League. And I guess we'll just have to see who it is. But personally, I'd rather go with a quarterback, because if I'm going to be entrusting my OC to develop my quarterback, I think having a QB background makes a lot of sense, and Scott Tolzien provides that for me. $2 from Bernard Nixon says, only one QB that played great at 43 was Tom Brady, which is true. And I also think, if there's any quarterback in NFL history that can repeat the success that Tom had at 43, it's going to be somebody with a very similar skill set and is in a very similar standing in the all-time pantheon of the position. And I think that describes Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Aaron played poorly last year by any stretch of the imagination. I think, getting the team to above league average in points per game scored, despite the fact that he had maybe the worst wide receiver room in football, was an accomplishment. The team led the league in yards after the catch. And I think Rodgers put, his guys in good positions to succeed in terms of, getting those short, high completion percentage type of throws. And letting those guys work out in space, because that was the strength of this team last year, was Kenny Gainwell, Jalen Warren, Darnell Washington, DK Metcalf working in space. And I think Rodgers identified that, played a really smart brand of football, and kind of like Tom Brady at 42, the numbers weren't necessarily there for Rodgers in 2025. But like Tom Brady, at 43, he won a Super Bowl because he went to Tampa Bay and he joined forces with Bruce Arians and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And if Rodgers can join forces with an offensive-minded head coach, Mike McCarthy, and then, they can add a couple really good pieces at wide receiver, or at least one really good piece, that can open up the downfield passing attack for the Steelers. And I think that, Rodgers could have a chance to repeat the success Tom Brady had in the final act of his career. $5 from Czar Craig says, assuming Aaron Rodgers signs on a cap-friendly deal with all of our cap space, is there a big swing move you can see the Steelers making like DK was last year? I'm actually the first one that comes to mind here, and I'm going to stay in the same position, and I'm going to say A.J. Brown. Now, we don't know if A.J. is going to, stay or whatever's going to be the case, but, I know A.J. would love to play with DK Metcalf again. If you're not going to be paying anything for your quarterback, and it seems like the Steelers won't be paying much for their quarterback for quite a few years, because if Rodgers comes back, obviously he won't be expensive, and then my assumption is they'll have a very young quarterback on probably a rookie contract starting for the team after Rodgers leaves. So, you're not going to be paying your quarterback much regardless, so you might as well spend some of that money on a legitimate wide receiver duo that might be the best in football. If you combine A.J. Brown, who I consider to be a top 5, maybe even a top 3 receiver in the game right now, with DK Metcalf, and those two massive bodies on the outside, and these teams trying to cover those guys, it's going to be a tough task, okay? Especially if you got a good quarterback. So if they're going to take a big swing on somebody, A.J. Brown is an interesting name to think about. Also, Jordan Addison could be a fun one if Minnesota wants to part ways with him. There's going to be some interesting opportunities that, pop up during the offseason, Craig, that I can't wait to see what the Steelers have in store for us over the next few months. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Are you okay with Aaron Rodgers returning this season? Let me know what you guys think and your take on Rodgers returning for a second season here in Pittsburgh down there in the comment section. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And while I tell you about our sponsor today, let me know what you guys think down there in the comments. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And the big game in Santa Clara between the Seahawks and Patriots is almost here. And there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than with Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get in on the football action before next year. So close out the year right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. And a new feature from Prize Picks that they now have is early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. So for my lineup for the big game in Santa Clara this year, I am going to take the more on receiving yards for Cooper Kupp, the less on receiving yards for Jackson Smith and Jigba, and the less on rushing yards for Ramondre Stevenson. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, next one coming in from Gavin says, what do you think of Makai Lemon in round 1? I would love Makai Lemon in round 1, man. There's differing opinions on Makai. Some people think, he's a little bit too small for their liking to be, a top 20 guy. But if that's the case, I'm more than happy to take Makai Lemon at 21. The guy is just so well-rounded. He's a bit smaller, but I think the modern-day NFL has a number of examples of guys that are, very close to true number 1 talents that aren't 6'3", 220, You've got a bunch of guys like that. And Makai Lemon, really good after the catch, good athlete, a really good route runner, has got, glue for hands, has some of the best catch radiuses of any player I've seen over the last several years, period, even though he's a bit smaller. He makes tough catches down the sideline and over the middle. He can do the run after stuff that works with Aaron Rodgers. Like, he might be like the ideal pairing for Aaron Rodgers in the Steelers offense, and would not surprise me at all if he ends up being the pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I also think Pittsburgh would be very high on Carnell Tate, on Jordyn Tyson. If those guys begin to fall into the teens, they might even consider a small trade up to get the guy of their choosing, because like I said, man, and I've said it over the last couple weeks, if you get Aaron Rodgers the right receiver to pair with DK Metcalf and the right, 2 receivers really to pair with DK Metcalf, I think this offense can take a big step forward with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and I think Makai Lemon could be a big part of that. Then we got DeBoss here. Says, what if Jordyn Tyson falls to pick 12 and the Steelers trade up to draft Jordyn Tyson there? I would love it. I would. Jordyn Tyson is on tape one of the more special wide receivers I've watched in the last several years. Now, he's coming in with a little bit of a hamstring issue that ended his season, and soft tissue injuries can be a little bit concerning, but when I watch Jordyn Tyson on film, man, he just wins every single 50-50 ball situation. He's got great size. But, what's super impressive and what's so rare about Tyson and why he's probably going to be my number 1 wide receiver in this class is the movement ability. And at his size, his ability to be as fluid of a mover as he is, the route runner that he is, it reminds me a little bit of Justin Jefferson, okay? And I'm not saying he is Jets. Like, Jets is a completely different, specimen, and he's the best receiver in the world as far as I'm concerned. But Tyson has that similar physical fluidness mixed with some incredible size and then the ability to go up and win those 50-50 balls. This guy has a chance to be a top 5 receiver in the game one day. Like, that is seriously as high as the ceiling goes, just because of that, really unique blend of skills. And, I know some people might be a little bit concerned with the injury history there, but hey, if some of those teams in the top 10 decide not to take him because of that, that's, all the better for the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are looking for their next CeeDee Lamb, right? Mike McCarthy drafted CeeDee Lamb, and they're kind of looking for that next guy to pair with DK Metcalf on a rookie contract, because DK's making a lot of money. So, certainly Jordyn Tyson could be one of those guys. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you're a real one, the real ones know that, clicking that thumbs up icon helps out the channel a lot, because it tells the YouTube algorithm that you're enjoying our videos and that they should recommend them to other people on the platform. So if you want to help us grow, if you want to, get this video in front of as many people as possible, click that thumbs up icon. Again, I greatly appreciate your support. $5 from Justin Yankuski says, how confident are you that we will have a great offseason? Also, would he be the con artist instead of the con artist if he blows it? Listen, man, if we go 3 straight years with the wide receiver room being as bad as it's been the last 2, then yeah, maybe we can start calling him the con artist with the C-O-N instead of with his actual name, because like that position is so important, particularly when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers that, doesn't have the mobility to win out of structure with his legs, all those different things. The reason why Josh Allen and the Bills can get away with it is because Josh is so good out of structure, so good with his legs. If an opposing defense, completely mans up their lackluster wide receiver room, he can make up for it. With a guy like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, these guys that are immobile style quarterbacks, you got to have guys that can win quickly so that these quarterbacks can win from within structure. And, Rodgers is one of the best, in structure playmakers in the game. He has been for a long time, supremely intelligent, still has great arm talent. But really, I'm going to judge Omar Khan's offseason this year largely by how he handles the wide receiver position. He's failed to deliver us a good wide receiver room the last 2 years. He cannot do it again. So we got one here from Samuel. It says, who is the best nose tackle for us to pick up in the draft or free agency? Personally, I like Caden McDonald from Ohio State. Now, Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech is also a big 330-pound human that you can pick up. And there's actually a lot of good nose tackles in the draft this year. So something tells me that the Steelers will probably address this position in the draft, and particularly, within the first 3 rounds, somewhere in that picture. And Caden McDonald, to me, is that perfect mix of holding the line of scrimmage, anchoring, pad level, all that different stuff you look for in a nose tackle, but he also gets after the quarterback. And, you don't have to sacrifice disruption up the middle with a guy like McDonald, even though he's so strong and he, does such a good job plugging up the middle, something that Keanu Benton has not been able to do in the Terrell Austin and Mike Tomlin scheme for many years now. So for me, I like Caden McDonald, but obviously they might go receiver in round 1, which means you'd have to go with somebody else on day 2 if that's the case. Logan Fligman says, what is your perfect offense for us by the beginning of next season? It's a good question, because right now there's not that much to do. You've got most of your spots on the offensive line figured out. I'd say Dylan Cook is your starting left tackle next season. Just got to figure out what you're going to do at left guard. Are you putting Broderick there? Are you bringing back Sayamalu? Are you bringing in somebody else? But, for me, I would probably bring back Sayamalu on another 1-year contract. Like, if you're going to be going, win now, bring in the guy that has the chemistry with everybody else on that line and just run it back with the group that really did a good job for this offense last year. And if Sayamalu agrees to come back on a somewhat team-friendly 1-year deal, I'm perfectly cool with doing that. I would also bring back Kenny Gainwell. I would cut Jonnu Smith. And obviously you're going to have to get a brand new receiver room. Right now, I think something that we could hope for is like Romeo Doubs in free agency on a decent contract. or Juwan Jennings, and then you pair him up with like a Makai Lemon or a Denzel Boston or a KC Concepcion from Texas A&M in the draft. If you do those things, man, like you've got a good O-line, you got a quarterback that can win within structure and is super intelligent and the players love playing for, got a receiver trio that can get the job done for the first time in the last 3 years. You got a tight end duo in Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth. That's awesome. And you got your running back duo. That was the strength of the team last year. So that would be the perfect offense. And honestly, man, you don't have to do all that much to get to that point this offseason, which is really exciting heading into the 2026 offseason. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. What position should Pittsburgh prioritize targeting in round 1 of the draft this year? Should they try and get a nose tackle to replace Keanu Benton at that spot? Should they try and get a wide receiver? Should they try and get a quarterback? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. And that'll be it for this week's mailbag. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. We're going to continue to get you guys extensive Steelers offseason coverage every single day on this channel for free. So if you are interested in that and you enjoyed today's show, make sure you guys click that subscribe button and join our family today.